I'm Layla,
I'm Mary.
and we have another very special guest today.
This podcast episode is called Numbers and Nimble, is where we'll crunch numbers and munch on knowledge. Today we're diving deep into the world of accounting, but hold on to your calculators because we've got a twist. Our spotlight shines on none other than legendary extraordinary Professor Donald Payne. Woo! Imagine this, a man who's not just a teacher with spreadsheets, but also a master of dad jokes. Yes, you heard it right. Professor Payne is not your average number cruncher. Coming from the prestigious Big Four accounting firm, he traded his corporate tie for the comfort of the classroom at Brazosport College. But wait, there's more. He isn't just about debits and credits. He's a proud Aggie with degrees from the illustrious Texas A&M University. Go Aggie. And if you thought his love affair with numbers was his only passion, think again. Professor Payne is also the proud man of a bustling household. Picture this, a beautiful wife, 2 rambunctious boys, and a darling little girl. Family man by day, number ninja by night. So buckle up as we embark on a journey through the world of accounting with a twist of whimsy and a dash of professionalism, courtesy of the one and only Professor Donald Payne. Let's crunch some numbers and sprinkle some laughter, because in this podcast, learning is a treat. Let's give it up for Donald Payne one more time. Woo! So we'll jump on right ahead. Can you take us on a trip down memory lane and share some of the twists and turns of your journey to eventually joining the Big Four?
So I think we could just stop the whole thing after that great introduction.
You're jumping right into
I was
it.
like, we're just
I thought I
done.
was gonna do. Oh my God, that's fine.
Yeah,
I was gonna ask, like, since we were talking about it, what accents can you do?
I don't have any accents.
You don't have any
No,
accents?
I don't have any accents. No.
Not a little British, no Italian.
No accents.
Okay,
No,
okay.
sorry.
Sure, too bad.
So did you want to ask the question then? Or,
No, Mary already asked. But
okay,
sure.
Yeah,
well,
yeah,
I wasn't listening.
No. Hey, I like your honesty. We'll jump into
We're
it.
confused too.
So we'll do, hey, Professor Payne, can you take us on a trip down memory lane and share some of the twists and turns of your journey to eventually joining the Big Four? So we're asking for your full-blown journey.
So I guess I managed a Whataburger when I was in college at BC at the community college level. And then I transferred to A&M as a management major. But I had not taken accounting yet when I had gotten to A&M in the first semester while I was there. I had to enroll in accounting. And at A&M, they actually have 2 different accounting courses. They have one for accounting majors, and they have one for non-accounting majors. So, of course, the one for non-accounting majors is the one that I wanted, and everybody that wasn't an accountant, it was a little bit easier than the one for accounting majors. But because I was a transfer student, I was enrolling a little bit, or registering for classes a little bit late. So the only one that was available was the one for accounting majors. And in that first accounting class, I made 100, I guess, on the first test, and the class average was like a 70. And then after the second test, I made 100 on it, and the class average was like a 65, and this was with accountants. So the professor asked me to come see him, and he encouraged me to switch from management to accounting. So that was kind of my journey to going into the accounting field.
And for those that do not know, what exactly is the Big Four?
So the Big Four are basically the biggest 4 accounting firms in the world. So they have the biggest clients. So if you think about the top like 5, like the S&P 500 are the top 500 companies, publicly traded companies. So those companies, are located all over the world. So the auditors, really, there's only 4 auditors that can do the job to audit those companies. So they do about 99% of the audits for all of those big companies.
What made you decide to go into the Big Four? Was that always something that you planned to do as soon as you began majoring in accounting, or did that come later?
No, so when I decided to go into accounting, then there's a program at Texas A&M, a 5-year program. They have them at a lot of other schools too, but A&M has a partnership with the Big Four accounting firms, and the Big Four really recruit a lot from Texas A&M and some other schools too. So it was kind of just since I went into that, it's called professional program of accounting. That was the firms that were recruiting, at that time. So that was just kind of, they were there. And I interviewed at, back then, it was the Big Five. But while I was in school, the whole Enron, I don't know if y'all have heard of the Enron scandal, but that all went down. And then Arthur Andersen, which was actually the biggest accounting firm in Houston at that time, they were the auditor for Enron, and they went out of business when Enron went out of business. So that was actually interviewed for an internship with Arthur Andersen, but by the time I was actually getting a job, they had gone out of business. My roommate in college actually took an internship with Arthur Andersen, so that kind of stunk for her because she, had done an internship, was supposed to go work there, and then there was no job, right? But luckily, all the clients, because we said, again, all these big companies have to get audited. Well, they still have to get audited. They just moved to one of the other four, right? So now it's the Big Four firms. So she was able to find employment.
What was that like, transitioning from university to the Big Four?
I guess the commute was probably the biggest challenge. When their office was located in downtown Houston, so on a entry-level salary, my wife wasn't working at the time, so it was just my salary. We couldn't afford housing in downtown Houston near the office, so we chose to live with her parents, who had a house around 20 miles away. But 20 miles, in traffic, in Houston traffic could be over an hour at times. So that was probably the biggest, I guess, the biggest challenge, because when I was at school, I wasn't the best student when I was in high school, but I was really good at work. So one of the things that I learned about myself was, I realized that how could I take the skills that I had at work and transition them into, the classroom and into college. So since I had managed a Whataburger, I worked, 60 hours a week a lot of times. So when I went off to college, I basically just told myself that college was my job and I was going to work 40 hours a week. So I put in 40 hours, whether it was working on classwork or being in the classroom, studying, doing homework. I had to put 40 hours in a week. So that allowed me to be successful, right? Because if you can imagine, if you guys were putting 40 hours into your classes, your grades would be pretty good, right? So I guess that. What was the question?
It was like, what was like transitioning from like?
Okay, so the transition from going to Whataburger, I kind of transitioned my work ethic, into college, and so I was already working like a work schedule. I was just doing it in college, and then I was just doing that at the Big Four, right? So I was kind of used to a set type schedule. The only thing was, I guess, the restriction was, I could get those 40 hours in whenever I wanted to when I was in school. When I went to the Big Four, like I said, the commute was a problem. So, once you got to the office, it was basically like I wasn't going to drive home between, in the middle of the day. So it was you were going to put your 10 hours in or whatever once you got there.
Right.
And then the commute was, maybe an hour. So then that turned it into, 12 hours maybe with the commute a lot of days.
And then when you think about the transition from Big Four to academia, what do you like? What was that transition like?
I'm going to go back to the commute.
You really?
you can
okay,
see
you're
my
stuck
commute.
On the commute.
Yeah.
Okay.
So the commute now. The commute's stressful. Traffic in Houston is no joke. I don't know if you guys have been, but it's it can be stressful and it can cause a lot of anxiety and you feel like to me, I feel like I'm wasting time that I could be doing other things. The commute here, we're in a small city. So, now I ride my bike to work and I'm an outside person. Also when, I was in Houston working in downtown, I don't know if you guys have been outdoor downtown, but there's not a whole lot of green grass and trees and stuff like you have here in Fountains, like we have here at the college. So you step outside away from the college and you have a beautiful atmosphere around you that you can kind of get away from your work. You know, in downtown, you don't have that. You get outside and you're kind of like it's big buildings, right, and traffic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is
So
not
there's-
motivating me for U of H right now. I'm like, I got to commute from Angleton to U of H. So, yeah, I do get anxiety and just stress. And I'm like,
Yeah.
why can't I be doing other things right
I mean,
now?
at the firm that I worked for, I mean, we had like a decompression room, and that's where, you know, sometimes people would go, where they had the relaxing music that would be played, and it was like a recliner, and you could turn the lights off and just, like, you know, decompress. But that's not decompressing for me. Decompressing for me is being in nature.
That's awesome. And then when you think about it, what is your favorite thing about teaching accounting?
I guess the relationships that I get to build with students.
I guess.
Yeah, that would probably, yeah. And, and you know, but something that I've realized, you know, that two things is this semester is, well, this year, we've moved my class from a 4-hour class to a 3-hour class, and I have less time with the students to build those relationships, and I've got to figure out a way in the future, because we've cut 30 minutes off of each one of my class times. I've got to figure out a way to have more time for that in the classrooms, because I feel like my class is somewhat lacking that from, and you guys can probably see it because you're in my accounting class this semester, and your class doesn't have as much time as, say, Mary's class did when she took it and she had a 4-hour class. There was more time for those relationships and that building between me and the student.
Yeah, you would give us like 30 minutes, go do your work
Yeah,
type of thing.
yeah, and we don't have that additional 30 minutes, you know, at the end of class to just allow you guys to work on stuff and for me to help out. So I'd like to have that time back. It's not going to be able to be 30 minutes, but I'd like for there to be some time for that.
And then do you still make your students like sign up to like meet you at the end of the class to
At
talk
the
to you
beginning
about
of the
it?
class, yes.
Okay, that was
Yeah, I
just
still
one.
do
I liked
that.
that.
Yeah,
I really like
yeah.
that.
So I
Yeah.
still do that, but it's just, so that initial introduction's still there, but the relationship building, I guess, throughout the semester is, I feel like, what's lacking.
In your teaching career, have you had any like big aha moments where something clicked for you, and you're like, maybe this is why I do this?
I guess aha moments of, I mean, so I'm a first generation student, college graduate,
Woo.
and not college student. I think my mom might have taken a couple classes, but I don't
Graduate.
Yeah, graduate. So with that, I think that provided me the ability to, like, an income jump from maybe what my grandparents and my parents were able. Like, they made good money, but they had to work a lot to get to where they're at, and I guess I like to be a part of that. So, like, in the Big Four accounting firms, you felt like you were helping corporations and rich individuals just get richer, and so there wasn't a internal, like, value that I that you got from coming into work each day. Yes, you were compensated, right, but you weren't feeling like you were helping the greater good, right? And I feel like I do that. I feel like I do that here. I get that because I'm helping propel students that maybe, you know, the community college is to help those students that maybe didn't do so well in high school, or maybe they don't have the funds to go off to a university to get to that next level.
Yeah. And then let's dive more into your students. If you were to say over the past years that you have taught, what would you say that stood out about your favorite students, and who are the favorite students, if you would like to share?
Are you trying to get me to say something here?
I don't know what you're talking about.
Well, Mary is one of my former students, and she's one of
thank
the
you. I didn't
students
know.
that, you know, her class, we built a good relationship, I think, in that class, and that's again what I think. Like I said, I'm lacking in some of my current classes right now. But I have a lot of students that I've built relationships with over the years that have become successful, and they're successful members of our community now. Rebecca Kelly, I don't know if y'all know her. She's the CFO for BISD. She's a former student of mine. And then Juan Guajardo, he's a former student of mine, and he's got an interesting story. He's a local accountant now, and he's probably been doing it for 10 or 15 years now, but he was a truck driver. So that's a pretty huge transition
Yeah.
to go from truck driving and to decide, I'm gonna go get my accounting degree and I'm gonna do this, right? And to continue truck driving while still going to school and taking night classes. At that time there weren't as many online classes. So there's lots of those success stories, but those are just a couple that are on the top of my head.
So those qualities that you see in those students that go on to really succeed in life, that Mary has and that those students have, what do they have in common? What are their common denominators in those students?
They have, all of those students had a really good work ethic, and they were also really good communicators, I guess. So if they did need help, because accounting's not the easiest subject, they were willing to reach out and come by, during office hours or schedule virtual office hours. And I think that's what really helped them learn the beginning courses, which will allow you to succeed in future courses.
Yeah.
Do you feel like the Big Four values those types of qualities, or do you think they look for something else?
I think they expect those qualities, but I think when you're interviewing, I think pretty much all of their candidates have those qualities. They're looking for also curiosity and those that want to know more about things and want to solve those problems, right? Like curious of how things work and how can I improve them or make them better, is something else I think that they're looking for.
Yeah. No, I remember I was working 3 jobs in the summer, taking 3 classes here. One of them was accounting 2402, because you were like, you have to take it in the summer, do not take it in the spring. And I was like, I got you, Payne, I got you. But I did not have it. I was like 88, and I was like, I got to get that 90. Yeah, no, but we did virtual Zoom calls just to get me through. So.
Yeah, I remember I met with you while I was at the orientation for my son at A&M, right?
Yeah.
So I was in Mays at the orientation with my son, and I was on my computer meeting with Mary for a virtual meeting for...
it was 20 to 30 minutes. It wasn't even long, but I was like, I need help. I can't get this. I didn't have time to study, so I was like,
hey,
I'll get anything.
If I'm gonna go to the orientation, I still need to be available for my students, right?
Yeah.
So
which is what I really appreciate.
Yeah. But I'm glad I went. I wasn't gonna go, and then I was like, you know what? All my classes are online. It's only a once in a lifetime thing that your son's gonna be going to his college orientation. So I'm glad I went, but I'm glad I was able to be available and help too.
No, it meant a lot. And then what inspired your shift from becoming a Big Four to a professor? What inspired that shift?
It sounds like such a big difference.
Yeah,
what made you want to completely change?
So, we've already talked about the commute.
Right? The commute is at the top of the list.
The commute is at the top of the list. Yes, the commute is definitely at the top of the list to where,
How long is your bike ride?
5 minutes.
No, you're about at a 200% increase of what I'm having to ride my bike. It's about 1.5 minutes, 2 minutes to get here.
Oh, okay.
Okay, it's not as bad.
2-minute bike ride.
You made it more dramatic.
I almost live at the college, basically.
No, you
so yeah, I'm basically living in the parking lot.
No,
yeah.
he is. I was driving one day. I don't even know what I was doing, and he was walking his dog, and I was like, "Payne, you live here?" He was like, "Yeah, I do." And
yeah, I could see my house from where we saw you at.
Are you kidding?
No.
Wow. No. Oh.
Yeah. So the commute's a big thing, but also one of the things that I saw was, I guess I was still, I was only a year in, but I was working a lot of hours, and I was looking at those that had been there for 5, 10 years, 15 years, 20 years, right? Those people that had been there for much longer than me and were in positions of power. And it didn't get any better. Like the schedule, like, so the schedule, if I was working, 60 or 70 hours a week, then if I had to do that for 2 years, eventually to get to 40 hours, then maybe I could have done it, right? But it was like, looking at it, it was, okay, I'm going to be doing this the rest of my life, right? And there's family is important to me. Spending time with my kids is important to me. Being able to coach their sports, go on vacations, things like that are important to me. And I wasn't going to be able to have that work-life balance. That's a kind of a cliche term now. Everybody uses that, but this was 20 years ago that I figured that out, that I needed a better work-life balance, and that's what the colleges help provide, right? Yeah.
And then next thing that I want to ask is, could you paint us a picture in the accounting firm, like
Day in the life.
day in the life,
Ooh. So I had to beat traffic in. So go back to the commute.
every time.
So I had to beat traffic because I didn't want to be in that hour plus commute. So I'd have to leave, usually I'd try to get to the office by 7, right? So that way I'd beat traffic. And then generally I'd try to leave the office by like 4 o'clock. And then if I didn't leave by 4, if there was just too much work or whatever going on and that wasn't something I could take home, then I would stay, until at least 7. Because if you tried to leave between 4 and 7, it was going to take me an hour to get home anyway. And then my wife was pregnant at that time. So then about 6 months in, we had my son, the one that's at A&M now. But it was basically during day-to-day tasks. I was on the Hewlett-Packard Compaq merger. So I was in international tax consulting. So basically what I was doing was just filling out tax forms for that restructuring of that merger. So that was my day-to-day life, was doing mostly that. That was the big account that I was on. I had other accounts that I was on as well. So if there was time that, like downtime on the Hewlett-Packard account, then there were some smaller accounts that I had work that I could do on. But in my area, I was in tax, so there wasn't as much teamwork. But if in other areas like audit, there's a whole lot of teamwork, and you're with these people on this team doing this, say major corporate accounts audit. You may be there, in a room with this team for 12 hours a day, right, and 15 hours a day sometimes, and during the busy season, and then once that audit is over and busy season's over, then your life kind of goes back to normal, right? Unless you get put on like another, if a company has a different year end, then you get put down then on another account like that. Then sometimes you have like two busy seasons, and that kind of stinks. That usually doesn't happen to people that have one major, right, account. But if you have smaller clients, then you might be on multiple.
What did you take from your experience as an accountant that you actually use in life?
So my experience I would say, I've always been a saver. So I think, budgeting, saving, investing.
No, I am.
So, in business school, other than accounting, you also take finance classes. So you learn about the effects of compounding and things like that. So, I guess those are things that I've applied, is just, trying to do everything that I can to save now rather than wait till later, because, a dollar saved for 40 years is going to be worth more than a dollar saved for 20 years. So knowing those effects of compounding and trying to, and again, it comes back to we talked about work-life balance, but it's kind of like a budgeting balance too, because you don't want to save everything. You want to have some money that you take to enjoy, right? On
Like have a life,
vacations
yeah.
and do the things that you enjoy. And I think my wife has really helped me with that because she's a spender. And I say she's a spender. She's like, we've been good for each other, but I think over the years she's become more of a saver where she was a spender when she was young. And for me, I've lightened up a little bit and become more of a spender than just, like we would have had it my way, I would have been saving 50% of our income, or something, which is just now that I think about that, it would have been great. We would be retired now, but but we wouldn't have had a very good life, the last 20 plus years.
Yeah.
So,
No. Hey, happy wife, happy life.
right? That's what I say.
And then for those eager beavers eyeing a career in accounting, but haven't dipped their toes in the college waters, Layla, you gotta stop laughing. Sorry. What wisdom would you toss their way? Like, what is like a good advice you would give them?
So research the field, because everything that I'm saying about like a day in my life was from 20 years ago. And, since 2015, there's been a lot of people leave the accounting industry, and there's been there's been a problem getting students to go into accounting. So the firms see this, and there's a shortage now of accountants. So they're addressing that by increasing salaries, right? So the salaries, a lot of people that are looking at accounting, they may be looking at engineering, they may be looking at computer science, they may be looking at like supply chain management. Those careers, those other three careers, all pay more. They all have a higher starting salary than accountant. So in order to make the accounting field more competitive, the accounting industry has seen that, and they're starting to increase salaries. So that's one of the things is I would look at the salaries, compared to the other things that you're looking at, other fields that you're looking at in degrees. But in addition to that, that they're doing, they're just like all other industries. Accounting's one of the fields that's easier to work from home than some other industries. So a lot of the firms have like 2-day work weeks now, or 2 days in the office, not work weeks. You still have to work from home, but a lot of your work can be done from home, right? So that they're allowing for a better work-life balance, and they're looking at their new hires, and they're trying to put a limit on the number of hours that they're working, so that you're not having those 60, 70-hour work weeks. Because what a lot of students don't understand is that accountants are paid a salary. They're not paid hourly most of the time. So at least at the Big Four. So, I mean, if you're starting off at a salary of, say, $65,000, $70,000 a year, but you're working, 60, 70 hours a week, then, your hourly wage is going to be very low because you're not getting any overtime. So again, but the firms are looking at that. They understand that that's an issue, so they're trying to put a limit on the number of hours. So the firms know that this is a problem, and they're trying to address it, because there's a problem with the pipeline, right? The pipeline of accountants coming in to the accounting area, and then there's also a problem when they're being overworked with this salary and them not getting any overtime. They're leaving the industry, right? So those things are now finally getting addressed, right?
So if you were talking to a student like Mary who's going to major in accounting, and you were being completely honest, what would you say are the absolute best things about majoring in accounting and the absolute worst things about majoring in accounting?
I would say the best thing about accounting is that you're pretty much guaranteed that you're going to have a job when you come out, because there is a shortage, and people are always going to need accountants. So that's the best thing, is that you've got certain job certainty, and you have a skill set, right? So if you go into business or you go into management, then a management major can't do accounting, right? A business major can't do accounting. They don't have the skill set to do that. But an accountant can be a manager, right? So I would say that's the best thing about the accounting degree, is that accounting can be very broad in the things that you can do. But if you can't, you can apply for an accounting, if with an accounting degree, you can apply for a management position. But if you don't get management positions, then you can always fall back on that skill that you have and do accounting work, right? So I'd say that's the best thing. The worst thing is what we just talked about, is all the the problems that they've had in the accounting industry with the work-life balance and the low pay. And, you know, I'm still a little skeptical that they're solving those problems as quickly as they need to.
Spectacle. So when diving into it a little bit more, as a professor, what would be your most favorite memory, like an unforgettable moment?
I'm gonna go. I'm not even gonna use a professor. I'm gonna use what kind of helped me decide. So when I was at the accounting firm, and I decided to start looking for another job, I could have gone to work for another corporation, because you can. Again, the Big Four is really high. It's really high hours and it's high stress and deadlines but if you go work for a company, like if you come work for Brazosport College or you work for an ExxonMobil or a Dow Chemical, you're working a 40-hour week, right? And you're making more money starting out a lot of times than you would at the big firms. What you get with the big firms is you get the prestige, right? So I could have done that. I could have worked for just another accounting firm, but when I was in school, I was an accounting tutor, right? And I knew I liked teaching students. And I also, when I was, this is a longer story. Okay, I'm going to give you all the whole story.
Please.
No, go ahead.
When
the
I
floor.
was when I was, I think it's 24. Is it 24, Jacob? When you can start? Am I allowed to say your name in there?
Yeah, it's fine.
Is it? So I think it's 24 when you can start applying for financial aid not under your parents.
Yes, it is 24. You
Okay,
could have asked
24.
me that.
Okay,
I know that.
so it's 24 that you can start applying for financial aid without your parents. So I had turned 24 when I was in my master's program, and I was like, finally, I'm going to get some free money, right? Because my parents made too much money for me to get any financial aid as far as like free money, right?
Yeah.
I got I got some unsubsidized loans, which are just loans that I'm having to pay interest on. But so I applied for financial aid, figuring I was going to get something, and I got a letter back from the financial aid office that said that for my master's program, that basically everybody turned 24, so there weren't enough funds to fund everybody. So what they were going to do is they were going to do a work-study program, and you could take a job, and they had a website you could go to and pick from this list, and you could take a job wherever was offered on there, and they would pay you $10 an hour. But what was happening is the financial aid office was paying 90% of that, right? So whoever the employer was only paying 10% of it. So I took a job with Bryan ISD, which Bryan College Station is right next to each other, but Bryan's a little bit lower income than College Station. So and I took a job at the alternative school. That's what I call it. So the school for bad kids.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, that is what you got.
And really, that being in that environment with those kids and finding out that I struggled reading when I was young, and I found out at the alternative school that a lot of the kids that were in there, that they had some learning disability, and that the reason that they were in there is, the next class they were going to get called on to read out loud, and they would rather get into a fight. So they'd just get into a fight and make sure they got sent to the principal's office and then to alternative school so they wouldn't have to read.
out loud.
Yeah. And they knew that the alternative school was a safe space for them because they knew they wouldn't have to do that. Getting to read with those kids and getting to help some of them with math, that helped me realize I had a passion for teaching.
Ignited passion. I love it.
So again, I was ticked, right, that I didn't get the financial aid, right? But I did take this work study program.
So it was a good thing.
Yeah, so it ended up being a good thing. But let me tell you the other part of the story. So with the financial aid, right? I everybody in my program, right? Because we're a pretty small program. We're like 200 students in this accounting program. Everybody else got a letter. Now, these are my friends, right? They get a letter at Christmas time, and the letter says, only one student out of your entire program took the work study. So now we have a surplus of funds. Here's a check for $1,000.
Wow.
Oh
Fake.
my God.
So everybody else got a $1,000 check, but I didn't because I had already worked for mine.
I know that made you a little bit bitter.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just
yeah.
a-
just a
a
little.
little.
Just not too much.
My friends thought it was really funny though.
Yeah.
They all had a good laugh at me that I was having to work for mine.
Yeah.
And they got this free check. And again, their parents didn't know about it. So they were all buying like new TVs, new cell phone. They were all like just right partying with it.
Yeah. Yeah. Didn't even use it for college.
No.
But everything ended up well.
Yeah.
Everything worked out.
Yeah,
Everything
I
worked
got
out.
the experience that they didn't get, and it put me in the position that I am now because the only job that I applied for was a teaching job. I didn't apply for other corporate like work or anything like that.
Yeah. You're made to teach, sir. You're made to teach. Do you know the phrase "gold money, everything else is credit"?
I do not know that phrase.
Gold is money.
It says gold is money, everything else is credit. It said that accountants would know this.
Yeah.
I was going to ask about your thoughts.
Well, I'll tell you, my thought would be that when we're recording transactions, hopefully you guys have both taken accounting. Are we quoting things in gold when we record the transactions?
No.
No, we're putting them in American dollars. So
Oh, man, I saw it on the website and I was like, oh, he's going to know this. Yeah, no, it was just a whimsical question.
and then I teach economics too. So in economics, money has to serve as a medium of exchange. I don't think we're using gold. Like, did you pay for your tuition with gold?
What if I might have?
Was the tuition quoted in gold?
Maybe. Mine was. I don't know about y'all's.
So I'd consider gold more of an investment, I guess, not so much as money or currency.
Okay.
I
It was
thought
just
you were
us.
going to say, what is wealth? I was going to be like,
Oh.
it depends on the school of thought.
She's a future
At
economist.
a time, maybe whoever said this, maybe at that time, gold was money at that time. But
But-
now, like currently, no.
Yeah, it's about the old age. What's
Yeah.
your take on the old age? Gold is money, everything else.
What are you trying to say? You can see the gray in my beard?
Ah, Dios mío.
Moving on.
Moving on.
We're going to close out with a lightning round.
Oh, I'm terrible at these. I'm not
It'll
good
be great.
at,
It'll be great.
thinking quick.
So I just have a few questions. They shouldn't be too hard.
Red.
Not quite. Not quite.
Blue.
But just answer
colors.
as soon as something pops in your head. Are you ready?
Perfect.
Okay.
What's your favorite music genre?
Oh, I pretty much like all music except for heavy metal. I don't really have it depends on how I'm feeling at that time. So
What's your ideal vacation destination?
anywhere with blue water and white sand.
Would you rather be a vampire or a werewolf?
Vampire.
Which one of your children scares you the most?
Matthew.
Obvious answer.
What's your favorite book?
Ooh. Oh, like.
Does he read?
I guess it would have to be The Millionaire Next Door.
What's your favorite show?
Man, Seinfeld.
Who's your favorite comedian?
Seinfeld.
Invisibility or super strength?
Ooh, super strength.
What's your go-to snack?
Oh, some,
Vegetables.
I'll say some protein
No,
or
I-
something.
Which vegetable?
Well, I don't know. It can't be. I guess a snack because I don't snack on. I mean, I have to have them cooked. So I guess it's not a snack.
I can't with you.
Just your
I'm
favorite
way overthinking this, but
You
favorite
are.
snack.
Cheetos. I mean,
I
you
don't really
eat bad
snack.
food.
I eat 6
Oh.
times a day, but they're all meals.
Oh.
So they're not snacks.
Okay, what is your
Okay.
favorite meal?
He doesn't snack. He doesn't.
He doesn't snack. No, he's on his food, y'all. Almost on his food. Okay.
Do you possess Riz?
Like cheese Riz?
Oh. Well,
I
no.
guess that would be a no. Right?
Moving on. Who inspires you?
Ooh.
Quick.
Quick. I don't. Okay, the first thing that came to mind was my wife. So I'll just say that.
Aww. Moment.
And would you rather hit legs or arms?
Ooh. Probably legs. Yeah.
That concludes our lightning round.
Lightning round.
Thank you so much, Donald Payne, everybody.
Thank you so much for coming.